This was probably the best weekend of college football we've had up until this point of the season. I don't know when the last time this happened was, but there were 9 ranked teams that lost. There were a lot of surprising games, and there were a lot of winners and losers from this crazy weekend. Today, I'm going to be sharing my 10 biggest winners from week 5 of the college football season. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football. And odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'm posting videos every day during the season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. Before I get to my 10 teams, drop a comment down below and let me know who you think the biggest winner was from the weekend. There were a lot of teams I'm sure didn't make the cut, so I'd love to hear which team impressed you guys the most. We'll start with Alabama, as this easily could have been a loss for them, as Bryce Young exited the game with an injury. Alabama was up 28-0 in the first half, but they allowed Arkansas to score 23 unanswered points, and their lead was cut to only 5 points. But Alabama responded nicely, outscoring Arkansas 21-3 to close the game. After Bryce Young left the game with an injury, Jalen Milroe came in and was excellent for the Tide. He threw for 60 yards with a passing touchdown while adding 90 yards on the ground with a rushing score. Jahmyr Gibbs reminded us why he's one of the top running backs in the entire nation. He had his best game of the season with the Tide as he rushed for over 200 yards with 2 rushing scores, while catching 2 passes for 20 yards. Although Alabama lost Bryce Young and blew a huge lead, they were able to keep their focus and hang on to escape with a really crucial victory. This is a really good Arkansas team that looked like they had all the momentum and looked like they had a chance at winning the game. But Alabama was able to pull away with a very convincing win. One of the more shocking games of the entire weekend was what TCU did to Oklahoma. The Horned Frogs beat the Sooners by 31 points, and this game was never really all that close. After the first quarter, TCU led by 17 points, and at halftime, they led by 24. All 55 of TCU's points came in the first 3 quarters. Max Duggan had the game of his life as he was named the Offensive Player of the Week in college football. He threw for over 300 yards with 3 passing touchdowns while also adding over 100 yards on the ground with 2 rushing scores. Don't look now, but TCU is 4-0 on the season and they're ranked inside the top 25. This is an offense that put up nearly 700 yards against Oklahoma. The Horned Frogs are now ranked 17th in the country and they look like they're ready to go on a run in the Big 12. I was at this game on Friday night and I'm still shocked at what I witnessed. UCLA took down the number 15 Washington Huskies, beating them 40-32. Although it was only a 1-score game, this was pretty much a game dominated by UCLA from essentially the start to the end. I was expecting Washington to take care of business against UCLA, but the Bruins looked like a damn good team in this game. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is showing that he might be worthy of Heisman discussion as he threw for over 300 yards with 3 passing touchdowns while rushing for 50 yards with a rushing score. Zach Charbonnet is still one of the more underrated running backs in the entire country as he rushed for 125 yards with a score while catching 3 passes for 55 yards. I've been hesitant with UCLA all season because they've had arguably the easiest schedule among all FBS teams. No, seriously, they've played Bowling Green, Alabama State, South Alabama, and Colorado. So this was their first true test of the season, and they passed the eye test. Now, the Bruins are 5-0, they're ranked number 18, and they're one of 2 undefeated teams left in the Pac-12. I was a little worried about Clemson, as I thought they were an upset watch as they were hosting number 10 NC State. But the Tigers pulled out the impressive victory as they defeated the Wolfpack by 10 points. DJ Uiagalelei continues to impress in 2022 as he threw for 200 yards with a touchdown while leading the Tigers in rushing with 70 yards and 2 rushing scores. Clemson's defense looked fantastic as well as they held NC State to under 300 yards while holding them to only 34 yards on the ground, averaging just 1.6 yards a carry. The defense also forced 2 turnovers as well. We know that Clemson is going to have a great defense on a year-to-year basis, but if DJ Uiagalelei can continue playing at a Heisman caliber level, this is a Clemson Tigers team that is certainly going to be in the playoff hunt all season long. This was a game that could have gone either way, but Ole Miss ended up pulling out the victory over number 7 Kentucky. There wasn't a whole lot of offense from the Rebels, but their defense stepped up and made a number of plays when it mattered most. The Rebels forced 2 crucial turnovers late in the fourth that ended up winning them the game. Don't look now, but Ole Miss is undefeated and they're ranked number 9 in the entire country. They have a couple of easy games over the next few weeks, so this winning streak can keep on going. It looks like the Rebels might actually be one of the better teams in the entire SEC, and I don't think it's that much of a hot take anymore to say that they could be a potential playoff contender. One of the more impressive victories of the entire weekend goes to Oklahoma State, who went on the road and knocked off number 16 Baylor. Oklahoma State entered the game ranked number 9 in the country, but I was a little hesitant with them based on who they played through the first 3 weeks. They had played essentially nobody, so I didn't really have an idea on just where this Oklahoma State team ranked. Well, after this victory, they're legit and they're a legitimate playoff contender. Spencer Sanders threw for nearly 200 yards with a passing touchdown while leading the Cowboys with 75 yards on the ground and a rushing score. The defense stepped up big time as they forced 2 turnovers and held the Bears to only 3 of 11 on third downs. Overall, this is an Oklahoma State team that just hasn't missed a beat since last season. They've quietly been one of the better teams in all of college football over the last 2 years as they've lost only 2 games by a combined 8 points. Once again, they're going to be knocking on the door of the college football playoff, and they look like they're easily the team to beat in the Big 12 this season. I don't know how many times this season at all there's been a team in my losers video that ended up in my winners video the following week. But here's Georgia Tech this week. After another rough loss last week, they fired their head coach, and wouldn't you know, maybe that was the difference maker with this team. They went on the road to number 24 Pittsburgh and stunned them with a 5-point victory. The Yellow Jackets scored 17 points in the fourth quarter and essentially dominated the entire second half. On defense, the Yellow Jackets stepped up big time as they forced 3 crucial turnovers. I don't know if Pittsburgh just had the biggest letdown of the season or if Georgia Tech is a new and improved team now that they moved on. Maybe it's the second option and this is a team that's going to start winning some more games. Whether or not Georgia Tech continues to win and makes a bowl game this season, this was an impressive showing and was arguably one of their best games over the last few years. We're getting to the point now where Kansas is seriously starting to creep into potential playoff discussions. They won their 5th game of the season, the first time they've done that since 2009. The Jayhawks are 5-0 and they are the best team in the Big 12 through the first 5 weeks. Now, normally with Kansas, every time they've won a game this year has been largely due to their offense. But that wasn't the case this week as the Jayhawks scored only 14 points. Jalen Daniels only threw for 100 yards and only added 9 yards on the ground. But it didn't matter because the Kansas defense showed up big time in their biggest showing of the entire season. They held Iowa State to only 300 yards, including 16 yards on the ground, as the Cyclones averaged just half a yard a carry. Also, Kansas forced 2 turnovers, 1 fumble, and 1 interception. So far through the first 5 weeks, Kansas has impressed both on offense and on defense, and they've shown they're just not a fluke anymore. After this incredible victory, they now are going to host College Game Day this weekend as they welcome TCU to town. After their impressive victory on the road last week, Kansas State impressed yet again, defeating Texas Tech by 8 points. This was a pretty close back and forth game through the first 3 quarters, but the Wildcats pulled away in the fourth quarter. Adrian Martinez had yet another fantastic showing as he threw for 100 yards with a passing score, but all his damage came on the ground as he led the team with 170 yards with 3 rushing scores. Deuce Vaughn also had quite the game as well as he rushed for 170 yards. Don't look now, but Kansas State is currently number 2 in the Big 12 in conference standings. They're one of only 2 teams that is 2-0, and they're 4-1 on the season. Who would have thought through the first 5 weeks of the college football season, Kansas and Kansas State would be the leading 2 teams in the Big 12 standings? If you had those odds, you'd probably be close to a millionaire. We'll wrap up today's list with Wake Forest, who had a really good road victory at Florida State. The Demon Deacons were coming off a tough loss at home to Clemson last week, so I thought they bounced back really nicely. After quickly falling behind in the first quarter, Wake Forest outscored Florida State 31-14 over the rest of the game. Sam Hartman had a solid performance as he threw for 250 yards with 2 passing touchdowns. As a team, Wake Forest rushed for over 170 yards with 2 rushing scores. This was a Florida State offense that was one of the better offenses in the entire ACC, and Wake Forest was completely able to limit them this game. I mean, there was a solid 40-minute stretch in which Florida State scored only 1 touchdown. I thought this was going to be a back and forth game that would feature a lot of scoring, but Wake Forest really held Florida State in check. Outside of their loss against Clemson, a game in which they could have won, the Demon Deacons have looked really good this season and look like they're a legitimate threat to make it back to the ACC title game. Well, those are my 10 winners from this weekend. Which team do you think was the biggest winner overall? Was there a team that really surprised you that you think should have been on this list? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you love college football, then this is definitely the place for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'll be posting videos every day during the college football season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.